you're running. Maybe not physically, but mentally. Always chasing, always preparing for what's next. You wake up thinking about work. You work thinking about the weekend. And when the weekend comes, you're already dreading Monday. Life is slipping through your fingers, and you don't even realize it. One day, you will. But by then, it might be too late. Seneca once wrote, "You are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you. You waste time as if it were infinite. And yet the only moment you truly own is this one." But if that's true, why do we struggle to be here? Why is our mind always drifting between regrets of the past and worries of the future? The answer isn't just distraction. It's something deeper, something ingrained in the way we think. But what if I told you that there's a way to break free, a way to truly live, to feel every second, to experience life as it is, not as you fear or wish it to be? The Stoics mastered this long ago, and today you're about to learn how. Are you ready? Let's begin. Why we don't live in the present moment. It starts like this. You wake up, check your phone, rush through your morning routine, and before you know it, the day has already escaped you. You sit at work thinking about the weekend, and when the weekend comes, you're stressing about Monday. You meet a friend for coffee, but instead of listening, your mind drifts to that embarrassing thing you said yesterday, or the deadline looming tomorrow. Hours, days, even years slip through your fingers, and one day you realize you have been everywhere except where you are. I used to think it was just me, that I was the only one constantly trapped between the past and the future, rarely feeling the weight of the moment I was actually in. But then I started noticing it everywhere. The man scrolling his phone at dinner while his wife stares out the window. The mother at the playground watching her child, but thinking about the groceries she needs to buy. The teenager snapping a photo of a sunset, but never truly looking at it. We're all running, but where to? And more importantly, what are we running from? Maybe it's the fear of stillness, the fear of facing ourselves without distraction. When I finally slowed down, I realized something unsettling. Without my endless stream of thoughts, without my plans and regrets, I didn't know who I was. My mind had been programmed to live in the next thing, the next goal, the next fix. I thought happiness was something just around the corner, that once I got the job, the house, the recognition, I could finally breathe. But every time I reached a milestone, I found myself staring at another, like a runner who never sees the finish line. It's not our fault. We were raised in a world that glorifies movement and measures success by how much we achieve, not by how present we are. We were taught that thinking ahead is responsible and reminiscing is normal, but no one ever showed us how to just be. So we live half alive, constantly distracted, constantly waiting for a better moment to arrive. One night, I sat outside, watching the sky darken, and something shifted. The air was crisp, the world was quiet, and for the first time in a long time, I simply existed. No past, no future, just that moment. It was fleeting, but it was enough. Enough to realize that life isn't waiting for me somewhere down the road. It's right here, and if I don't start paying attention, I'll miss it all. If any of this sounds familiar, know that you're not alone, but also know that there is a way out. The Stoics understood this centuries ago, and their wisdom can guide us back to the only place we truly belong, now. The question is, are you ready to wake up? Rule 1. Embrace impermanence. You wake up, and everything feels familiar. The same bed, the same routine, the same people in your life. It feels as though things will always be this way, as though today is just another day in an endless stream of tomorrows. But deep down, you know this isn't true. One day, you will wake up, and something will be different. Someone you love will no longer be there. A chapter of your life will have closed without warning. And in that moment, you will realize nothing stays the same forever. We resist this truth because change is uncomfortable. We build our lives on routines, relationships, and expectations, convincing ourselves that they are solid, unshakable foundations. But everything, every person, every moment, every experience is in a constant state of flux. We grow older, friendships fade, seasons shift, and time moves forward whether we like it or not. The more we cling to the illusion of permanence, the more we suffer when reality proves us wrong. Epictetus said, "Never say about anything, 'I have lost it,' but instead, 'I have given it back.'" Discourses 3.24. This perspective changes everything. Instead of treating life's changes as cruel thefts, we see them as natural transitions. Nothing truly belongs to us, not people, not possessions, not even time itself. Everything we have is borrowed, and one day we must return it. The question is, will we spend our lives fearing that moment, or will we embrace impermanence and live fully while we can? Think about the moments when change has shaken you. Maybe you lost a loved one, ended a relationship, or had to leave a place that once felt like home. At first, it felt unbearable, like the world had betrayed you. But over time, you adapted. You found new routines, met new people, discovered new joys. What once seemed like an ending became the beginning of something else. This is the nature of life. It flows, whether we resist it or not. And when we stop resisting, we suffer less. Imagine holding onto a leaf in the wind, trying to stop it from moving. The tighter you grip, the more fragile it becomes, crumbling in your hands. But if you let it go, it dances freely with the wind, moving effortlessly with the rhythm of the world. This is what it means to embrace impermanence. Not to give up, but to let go of the need for things to stay the same. Life is not meant to be grasped tightly. It is meant to be experienced moment by moment, fully and without fear. So how do we practice this in our daily lives? The first step is awareness. Most of the time we live as if we have unlimited time, as if the people around us will always be there. But what if we reminded ourselves every day that nothing is guaranteed? What if, instead of taking things for granted, we appreciated them deeply, knowing that they will not last forever? This shift in mindset transforms ordinary moments into precious gifts. The mundane becomes meaningful. The time we spend with loved ones feels richer. Even difficulties become more bearable because we know that, like everything else, they too will pass. One simple but powerful practice is to ask yourself daily, if everything is changing, what truly deserves my attention right now? Instead of worrying about the past or stressing about the future, this question grounds you in the present. It reminds you to focus on what matters, to be fully engaged with life as it is, not as you wish it to be. Another way to embrace impermanence is to practice letting go. Let go of expectations that life must unfold a certain way. Let go of the need to control outcomes. Let go of the belief that happiness comes from things staying the same. Instead, find joy in the movement of life itself. Find peace in knowing that just as pain is temporary, so is joy. So embrace it while it lasts. The fear of change is ultimately the fear of loss. But if we see life through the lens of Stoicism, we realize that loss is just another word for transition. Nothing is ever truly lost. It simply transforms. A job lost is an opportunity for reinvention. A relationship ending is a space for self-discovery. Even death itself is not the end, but a return to the natural cycle of existence. When we stop fearing impermanence, we stop fearing life itself. The world is constantly shifting, and so are we. The question is not whether change will happen. It will. The question is whether we will resist it or embrace it. Today, right now, you have a choice. Will you live in fear of what will inevitably change, or will you open yourself to the beauty of the fleeting present? Because in the end, the only way to truly live in the moment is to accept that the moment will not last. The river keeps flowing. Let yourself flow with it. Rule 2. Stop postponing life. You tell yourself that one day everything will fall into place. One day, when you have more money, when you get the perfect job, when you finally meet the right person, then you will start truly living. But that day never comes. Every milestone you reach only reveals another. The happiness you thought was waiting for you at the finish line keeps moving further ahead, just out of reach. And before you know it, years have passed, and you realize you have spent more time preparing to live than actually living. We convince ourselves that life will begin after the next achievement. But Seneca warned against this illusion when he said, "You are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you. You waste time as if you had an unlimited supply of it, on the shortness of life." The truth is, time is slipping through our fingers faster than we realize. We postpone joy, fulfillment, and meaningful experiences, waiting for the right time. But what if the right time is now? What if waiting is the very thing that is keeping us from living? We often assume we will have more time to chase our dreams, to fix relationships, to experience the things we long for. But time does not wait. The future is never guaranteed, and the habit of postponing life becomes a trap. We justify it with excuses. I'll travel once I save more money. I'll write the book when I have more time. I'll start my business when the market is just right. But the truth is, there is never a perfect moment. Waiting will not make you more prepared. It will only ensure you miss out. Think about the moments you have delayed happiness, the book you always wanted to write but never started, the trip you dreamed of taking but kept pushing back, the passion you wanted to pursue but told yourself it wasn't practical. Every day we trade real experiences for hypothetical ones. We sacrifice the present for a future that may never arrive, and in doing so, we fail to see that the only moment we truly own is this one. Imagine an artist who spends years gathering the perfect materials, studying techniques, planning every detail, but never picks up the brush. That is how most people live. They prepare endlessly for a life they never allow themselves to experience. But life is not meant to be prepared for. It is meant to be lived. When you stop postponing and start engaging, you realize that fulfillment isn't found in some distant future. It's here, in the small, imperfect, messy moments that make up your reality. What holds us back from embracing life fully? Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of imperfection. Fear that we might make the wrong choice. We tell ourselves, "I will start when I'm ready." But readiness is an illusion. No one is ever truly ready. The perfect time will never come. The only time that exists is now, and the only way to truly live is to step forward, before you feel prepared. The habit of postponing life often stems from a fear of regret. Ironically, in trying to avoid the discomfort of failure or uncertainty, we create the very regret we fear most. Looking back, people rarely regret the things they did. They regret the things they never tried, the words left unsaid, the risks never taken, the dreams that never left their minds. What would you do differently if you knew you had less time than you think? Think about a child learning to walk. They don't wait until they have mastered balance. They stumble, they fall, they get back up. They don't postpone movement because they aren't perfect at it yet. They embrace it as part of the process. And this is how we should approach life. Stop waiting for conditions to be perfect before you take action. Stop assuming that happiness is something to be earned later. Stop delaying your dreams, your passions, your experiences, and start taking small, imperfect steps today. If you truly want to live in the present moment, start by identifying what you have been putting off. What have you told yourself you will do someday? What joy, passion, or adventure have you denied yourself because you think now isn't the right time? Write it down, look at it, and then ask yourself, if not now, when? Because the future is never guaranteed, but this moment is. And the only regret greater than failing is never having tried at all. Take one thing you have been postponing, big or small, and do something about it today. Make the first step, send the email, write the first sentence, book the trip. Don't wait for a future that may never come. Your life is happening now. Live it. Rule 3. Create space between thought and reaction. You are walking down the street, lost in thought, when someone suddenly bumps into you. Your first instinct is irritation, maybe even anger. How could they be so careless? Your body tenses, and your mind is ready to lash out. But then, just for a second, you pause. You notice the reaction forming inside you. You take a breath, and in that moment, you have a choice. You can let the irritation consume you, or you can let it go. This is the power of space between thought and reaction. Most of us don't live with this awareness. We move through life on autopilot, reacting instantly to whatever happens around us. If someone criticizes us, we defend. If something goes wrong, we panic. If things don't go our way, frustration takes over. We assume our reactions are inevitable, but in truth, they are not. Between every stimulus and response, there is a gap, and in that gap lies our freedom. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Enchiridion 5. The world will always throw challenges your way. People will be rude, plans will fall apart, and things will not always go according to your desires. But none of these things can dictate how you feel unless you let them. Imagine watching a storm outside your window. The wind howls, the rain lashes against the glass, but inside you are safe and untouched. Your emotions are like that storm, wild, powerful, unpredictable. But you are not the storm, you are the observer. You can watch your emotions rise and fall without letting them control you. This is the essence of Stoic discipline. Understanding that emotions will come and go, but your response is always in your hands. Think about the last time you lost your temper. Maybe it was something small, a delay in traffic, a harsh comment from a colleague, a disagreement with a loved one. In the moment, it felt automatic. You reacted instantly, fueled by emotion. But looking back, did that reaction serve you? Did it make the situation better, or did it only amplify the problem? How often do we make choices in the heat of the moment that we later regret? How often do we let fleeting emotions dictate long-term consequences? Now imagine an alternative. Imagine that when frustration or anger arises, you take a breath instead of reacting. Imagine stepping back from your emotions, observing them without judgment. Instead of being controlled by your impulses, you choose how to respond. This is what Stoicism teaches us: to recognize that our initial feelings are not commands. They are just suggestions, and we always have the power to reject them. This practice is not about suppressing emotions. It is about giving yourself the time to understand them before acting on them. It's about seeing anger not as an uncontrollable force, but as a signal that something inside you has been triggered. It's about noticing anxiety before it spirals into panic, recognizing irritation before it turns into hostility. By creating space between thought and reaction, you move from being controlled to being in control. But how do you do this in real life? The answer is simple yet powerful. Pause and breathe. When you feel an emotional reaction bubbling up, stop. Don't speak, don't act, just breathe. Inhale deeply, hold for a moment, and exhale slowly. Repeat this at least 3 times. This tiny moment of stillness creates the space you need to shift from impulse to intention. It gives you time to ask yourself, is this reaction necessary? Will this response align with my values? What is the wisest course of action? Another technique is mental framing, reminding yourself that what feels urgent now is often insignificant in the long run. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year? This shift in perspective helps to detach from the intensity of the moment, allowing you to respond with clarity rather than emotion. Think of this as training for your mind. Just like an athlete strengthens their body through repeated practice, you strengthen your ability to remain calm through repetition. The more you practice pausing, the easier it becomes. Over time, what once felt like an uncontrollable instinct transforms into a conscious decision. You start responding to life, not just reacting to it. Imagine how different your life would feel if you mastered this skill. Fewer arguments, less regret over things said in anger, more patience, more wisdom, more clarity. You wouldn't be a prisoner to every passing frustration. Instead, you would move through life with the unshakable calm of someone who knows they are in control of themselves. The world is chaotic, unpredictable, and often frustrating. But your inner world, that is yours to govern, and it all starts with a single breath. When you own the space between thought and reaction, you own yourself. The next time you feel anger, frustration, or anxiety rising, stop and take 3 deep breaths before responding. Observe the emotion, let it settle, and then choose your response with wisdom. Make this a habit, and watch as you transform from someone who reacts impulsively to someone who responds with intention and clarity. Rule 4. Engage fully in the present task. You sit down to work, but before you start, you check your phone, just for a second. A message pops up, and suddenly you're replying. Then, a notification leads you to another app, and before you know it, 10 minutes have passed. You return to your task, but now your mind is fragmented. You start, but your focus is thin, diluted. Sound familiar? This is how most of us live, always doing something, but never fully engaged. We move through life distracted, pulled in 100 directions, never immersing ourselves completely in the moment. We tell ourselves that we are multitasking, but in reality, we are merely shifting attention back and forth, never truly present in any one thing. The cost? A diminished quality of work, a lack of fulfillment, and a life that feels like it is slipping through our fingers. The Stoics understood that to live well, we must engage fully with whatever we are doing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice." Meditations 6.26. This is not just about productivity, it's about presence. It's about truly living. Think about the last time you were fully absorbed in something, maybe a conversation where time seemed to vanish, or a creative project that pulled you in completely. In those moments, you weren't thinking about the past or the future. You weren't distracted by a dozen unrelated thoughts. You were there, immersed and alive. Now contrast that with the feeling of being half present, working while scrolling, eating while watching, listening while thinking about what to say next. The difference is profound. When we engage fully in the present task, we reclaim our focus and deepen our connection with life. Instead of treating each moment as something to rush through, we learn to treat it as something to experience. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. If you approach even the simplest tasks with care and attention, you cultivate a mindset of presence that carries into every aspect of life. But engaging fully isn't easy. Our world is designed for distraction. Every app, every notification, every flashing light is pulling us away from the now. And the mind, conditioned by years of fragmented attention, resists focus. But like any skill, presence can be trained. Start by choosing one activity each day to do with complete attention. It could be drinking your morning coffee, washing the dishes, writing an email. Whatever it is, do it with full awareness. Notice the details. Observe the process. If your mind drifts, gently bring it back. You will begin to notice something remarkable. The simplest tasks become richer. Eating is no longer just about consuming food. It becomes an experience of taste, texture, and aroma. Conversations are no longer about just exchanging words. They become a deep and meaningful connection. Work is no longer something to get through. It becomes something to engage in fully, with purpose. Another practice is to eliminate distractions. When you work, put your phone in another room. When you eat, turn off the TV. When you talk to someone, put your attention solely on them. These small changes have a massive impact. They help you shift from a life of divided attention to a life of full presence. Imagine how different your life would feel if you approached each task, not with the aim of just finishing it, but with the intention of fully experiencing it. Imagine working with deep focus, free from distraction. Imagine listening to someone with complete attention, making them feel truly heard. Imagine going for a walk and actually seeing the world around you, rather than being lost in thought. This is what it means to engage fully in the present task. This is what it means to truly live. But presence is not just about productivity, it's about peace. When you are fully engaged in what you are doing, you are not trapped in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. You exist here and now, in the only moment that is real. The world slows down and life becomes more vivid. You begin to notice the small joys, a warm cup of coffee, the way sunlight filters through the trees, the sound of laughter from a friend. These are the moments we miss when we rush mindlessly from one thing to another. We often talk about wanting more time, but what we truly need is to be more present in the time we have. The difference between a life that feels empty and one that feels rich is not how many years we live. It is how fully we engage with the time we are given. Presence turns ordinary experiences into extraordinary ones. A simple meal becomes a moment of gratitude. A conversation becomes a connection. A task becomes a craft. And in that process, life becomes something we truly live, rather than just something we get through. Choose one task today, big or small, and commit to doing it with full presence. No distractions, no rushing, no half-awareness. Just you and the task. Observe how it feels and ask yourself, what would my life be like if I did everything this way? Then, make the conscious decision to bring that level of presence into more moments of your day, because the depth of your life is not determined by how much you do, but by how present you are while doing it. Rule 5. Memento Mori. Remember you will die. You wake up every morning assuming there will be another. You make plans for tomorrow, next week, next year, believing time is abundant. But what if it isn't? What if today is all you have? The truth is, one day you will take your last breath, and the world will continue without you. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you up. For centuries, Stoic philosophers have practiced memento mori, the reminder that death is inevitable. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world during his time, constantly reflected on his own mortality. In Meditations, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This was not a morbid obsession, but a tool to sharpen his focus, to ensure he lived with urgency and clarity. If even an emperor must face death, what makes you think you have forever? Think about how much of life is wasted. The time spent scrolling through social media, arguing over meaningless things, worrying about opinions that don't matter. We put off what truly matters because we believe there's always more time. One day, I'll start that project. One day, I'll tell them I love them. One day, I'll pursue my dream. But one day is never guaranteed. Imagine standing at the edge of your life, looking back. What moments would you wish you had savored? What words would you regret not saying? What experiences would you give anything to relive just once more? The realization that time is finite forces clarity. It strips away the trivial and highlights what truly matters. The mundane fades, and what remains is love, connection, purpose, and the deep desire to leave something meaningful behind. But most of us don't live this way. We act as though we are immortal, as though we have an endless supply of days to waste. The Stoics saw this delusion for what it is, a dangerous lie that keeps us from living fully. They understood that by facing death, we learn how to live. When you accept that your time is limited, every day becomes precious, every interaction carries weight, every decision is infused with meaning. Fear of death is often rooted in attachment to material things, to status, to the illusion of permanence. But when you realize that everything is temporary, you begin to loosen your grip. You stop wasting time chasing things that will ultimately fade. You focus instead on what truly matters: virtue, relationships, and the impact you leave behind. Death does not make life meaningless. It makes it urgent. So how do you practice memento mori? Start by reflecting every morning. If today were my last day, how would I live? Would you still complain about small inconveniences? Would you hold on to grudges? Or would you forgive, love, create, and immerse yourself in the present moment? This question cuts through excuses and demands action. It reminds you that life is not something to be postponed. It is happening right now. Another powerful practice is to visualize your own death. It may sound uncomfortable, but confronting this reality strengthens your appreciation for life. Imagine lying on your deathbed, looking back. What would you wish you had done differently? Now, recognize that you still have time to change that, if you act now. The world constantly distracts you, pulling you away from what truly matters. But memento mori brings you back. It reminds you to live urgently, to love deeply, to pursue what sets your soul on fire. It is not a call to recklessness, but to intention, to ensure that when your final moment comes, you can say, "I lived fully, without regret." Beyond your personal actions, memento mori can also shape how you treat others. When you remember that every interaction could be your last with someone, you become more patient, more kind, more present. Petty arguments seem insignificant. The desire to hold on to resentment fades. You begin to value each moment you share with others, knowing that one day you will wish for just one more conversation, one more laugh, one more moment of connection. Death is not the enemy. It is a reminder, a teacher, a force that gives life its meaning. Those who live in denial of it waste their days in trivial pursuits, while those who embrace it learn to cherish every breath. You cannot control how much time you have, but you can control how you use it. Every morning ask yourself, if today were my last day, how would I live? Then act accordingly. Make the call. Start the project. Forgive. Love. Live. Every day we stand at a crossroads. We can drift through life on autopilot, consumed by distractions, regrets, and worries, or we can wake up and choose to live fully right now. The question is, what will you choose? Will you let the days slip through your fingers, waiting for a future that may never come, or will you claim this moment as yours? You have a choice. You always have a choice. Every breath you take, every action you make, is either bringing you closer to a life well lived or further away from it. Will you act with intention? Will you engage fully? Will you embrace every fleeting second? Because here's the truth, each moment wasted is a moment you will never get back. Time is indifferent to our hesitation. It moves forward whether we are present or not. And once a second is gone, it is gone forever. So take action right now. Start with something small. Fully engage in the next conversation you have. Take 3 deep breaths before reacting to a difficult situation. Choose presence over distraction, action over delay, wisdom over impulse. Are you ready for the challenge? Join us in the 7-day Stoicism Challenge, where we'll guide you step by step to apply these principles in your daily life. Don't wait. Your life is happening right now. For a complete breakdown of the challenge, make sure to watch the next episode on our channel. Like, share, and subscribe to stay on this journey with us. See you there.